Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Welcome, everybody. And before I start, wow, that's bright. Didn't realize how bright that was. Before I start, I just wanted to say, firstly, thank you, Steve, for having me. And let's all put a round of applause together for Steve as well for putting this wonderful event together. I took many notes myself, so it's great. How many of us traveled here today, either by plane or by car? Pretty much everyone. How many of you left the house and said, geez, I hope I haven't forgotten anything? A couple of you. Who got to the airport and said, that's what I forgot? I did the same. For me, it was my glasses. So if I'm a little bit in my screen, it's because I can't read. But I think, obviously, thanks for the introduction, Steve. Over 17 years in the industry, 20 years in total. I had a couple of breaks in between, done some traveling and things like that. But it's an industry that's very, very close to my heart. And I'm with you here now for an hour or just under an hour. And there's probably some of you in this room. Who's ever, obviously Sarah Kelly, but who's never heard of me before? And that's fair. Right, I was just a real estate agent selling on the Gold Coast, both in London. And the question that a lot of you are probably asking yourself is, why should you spend the next hour engaging with me? And the truth is, you probably shouldn't yet, because I haven't built any respect or any trust with you. So for order for you to listen and take on board what we're about to go through today, I have to be able to show you that I have the knowledge in order to provide to you guys, which is what I'm going to be talking about here today, because we're in conversations with selling agents pretty much every single day, and we want to gain their respect. We want to gain their trust, and in order to do that, we have to be able to communicate properly. But firstly, why should we listen today? As Steve pointed out, 17 years in the industry. I started in London, formerly a selling agent for, it says there 15 years. It was about 15, 16 years, and then a couple of years in the buyer's agent space. Over 1,600 transactions to date. At 22, I dropped out of university twice. All of my friends were in university, they were getting a trade, and I, to be honest with you, I felt like a failure. I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm in this space, I'm 22 years old. I worked in a DIY store, equivalent to what you guys have in Bunnings. This is in London, and I was a lifeguard for a little bit. And yeah, I felt like a little bit like a failure, but then I saw the real estate agents, the nice suits, the nice cars. By the way, yes, I do drive a stereotypical real estate agent car, which is a white BMW. But I looked at that and I was like, okay, I don't need to go to university to do that. And in London, you got given a car. So it was completely different to how we do real estate here. I was like, I want that. I want to be able to do that. So I had no qualifications and no experience. I just had ambition. And my ambition was simple. I just wanted to drive around in a nice car and get some respect and have good communications with people and make good money. That is what got me into the industry to start with. 4 years or 4.5 years in London real estate, it's very different to how real estate is here in Australia. So I started on £17,000 a year. Most of us are getting that in one deal. I was an employee, which means we don't have to run our own business. We don't have to worry about branding. We don't have to worry about leads. We don't have to worry about knocking on doors as a sales agent. Hey, do you want to sell your house? That was me 100 times a day. Making phone calls. Hey, do you want to sell your house? I was that annoying real estate agent that was just driving for business here in Australia. But in London, we didn't have to do that. It was all about the transaction. It was all about the conversations. It was all about the negotiation, because I didn't have to worry about anything else. But I was an employee. I sat in an office. 8:30 in the morning, we had to be there. £17,000 per annum. All I had to do was negotiate. That was it. All I had to do was find the buyers, which made it very, very simple and very, very easy for me. After about a year, the way that the system worked was the manager used to go out and get the business, used to do all of the listing presentations, and then there was one person getting the properties out on the other end, which was the transaction, which was the negotiation. And that was how the system operated. So my job was pure, or very, very simple, really. All I had to do was put deals together. I didn't have to do any open homes. I didn't have to do any buyer briefs. All I had to do was sit in the office and put deals together when the other selling agents brought the buyers and the selling agents to me. That was my role. I put anything between 20 to 25 deals together for the company, for the group, every single month. By the time I left London to come to Australia, I was probably already on 12 or 1,300 transactions. I fucking loved it. Who has that moment when you're working with the buyer, when you're working with the seller, and you know that you have just got every last dollar out of that selling agent for your buyers? That feeling, I know Shannon's, yeah, you've had that before. How many of us have had that feeling before when we just like, it's a buzz, right? It's so exciting. Who loves doing the strategy calls and the briefs with the buyers? Nobody. We all love the pointy end of the pencil, right? We all love the transactions, but who actually likes having those conversations with the selling agents when we put in our offer and 24 hours later and they say, hey, guess what? We've got another offer on the property. Who likes those conversations? Who actually thrives off those conversations? Nobody. One. Kate? I love them. I was like, bring it on. This is the exciting part. This is the buzz that we get. This is what our clients are paying us for, to create that leverage, to create that excitement. So 2011, I came to Australia and I had a backpack on my shoulders, left the office in London, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was setting nightclub tours in Surfers Paradise. You know, the annoying ones. When we were younger, we used to walk around and we used to sell those nightclub tours. That is what I used to do. And I realized the beach, the surf, Surfers Paradise, everything, fantastic, beautiful. I want to live here. What do I have to do? I have to get sponsored. So I went to what I know and love, which was real estate. No idea that I was starting a business, starting a brand. I had to door knock, I had to try and find properties. But all I was worried about was sponsorship. I just wanted to stay in the country by all means necessary. And in order for me to do that, I had to try and start a role. I started at Ray White in Burleigh. And after 12 months, I had that conversation with my principal and I said, hey, when I started the role, I said, hey, I've got a year left and then I've got to leave. And he's like, well, you've got some experience behind you. Let's give you a shot and let's see how we go. 12 months passes and I was so nervous to have that conversation with my principal. And I said, look, I've got to leave the country. And he said, no, you don't. What do we have to do to keep you? It was one of the most beautiful things and it's the reason why I'm here today. And I was sponsored by Ray White in Burleigh. And I'm probably confident that I am the only real estate agent that's ever been sponsored. Like, who sponsors a real estate agent? Nurses, trades. It's not as if we're short real estate agents, right? And there's a lot of bad ones out there as well. But something that was really, really close to me. In 2000, so I built a business. One of the most annoying things that I found was I had to go out door knocking. I had to do leads. I had to do marketing. I had to do advertising. I just loved the transaction. I just loved the transaction at the end, but in order to do that, I had to have people to transact with. I had to have buyers and I had to have sellers. Not the thing that I love doing. So did that for about 15 years and then 2004 pops around and I decide, a friend of mine reaches out to me and he says, Colin. So yeah, with Ray White for 12 months and then a friend of mine reaches out to me and says, Colin, we can use somebody with your skills and with your abilities. I've got a buyer's agency and I just need people on the pointy end to close. So when you see there 100 properties, caveat, I wasn't doing what you guys were doing. Trying to get lead generations. A friend of mine just said, I'm drowning in leads, I just want to have them to you. And you can just have the conversations with the agents because I was able to, read into being a selling agent for 15 years. I was able to know what they were thinking and how they operated. He said, I just need you at the pointy end of the pencil. So I was putting together anything between 7 to 10 deals every single month. It's not because I cut corners. It's not because I was unethical. But it's because I understood how the selling agents thought and how the selling agents operate and how they think. So today, I'm going to take you through, because everything starts with a buyer. The conversations that we're having with the selling agents, and to get authority from those selling agents, we have to start at the beginning, and that's with the buyer. The buyer is our product. So if we don't have confidence in our product and our buyers to transact and move forward, the selling agents aren't going to have confidence in our conversations that we're having with them. A selling agent will smell, as soon as you have that first conversation on the phone with them, whether your buyer or whether they have confidence in you and whether they have confidence in your buyer. We're going to talk about handling. Oh, this is better than that. This is bigger. Why didn't I start with this? Handling emotional clients. We've all had those clients. Communicating with authority that gains respect, and understanding price and value. By the way, when I was speaking to James this morning, when I said that I'm sort of close to 20 years experience, how many of you thought, geez, he only looks 20? Like how? I get that a lot. It was my birthday yesterday, and I turned 43. Thank you. Have any of you been in? So when we start off with the buyers, it all starts from the beginning. There's no point in going into how we communicate with authority with the selling agents until we can have confidence in our product. Now, we've all brought buyers on. We've all done buyer briefs. I understand that. How many have had those buyers that have been on our books for absolutely months, and they say no to everything we put in front of them? How many? Yeah. Calls at 7:30 p.m. while you're putting your kids to bed, just to want to have a chat. We've all had that. I'm working with buyers for 8 months who just keep changing their mind and changing their brief. Yeah. How do you think those conversations, when we're working with these buyers, how is our energy levels and our confidence when we're having conversations with the selling agents, when we're working with these buyers? If we don't have confidence in them, how are we to expect the selling agents to have confidence in our product? So let's start with the buyers. If your buyers don't have clarity from the very beginning, everything that comes after is chaotic. I always thought this: if I don't get my buyers focused and clear right from the very beginning, everything else that comes after that is chaotic. I've got a buyer who doesn't really understand what their North Star is. I've got a buyer who, when the pointy end of the pencil comes down and I'm ready to make an offer on a property, they go MIA, and you just don't hear from them. How many of us have had that? I need to make a decision. You need to pick up your phone. We're texting. Everything, if the buyer isn't clear and the buyer isn't focused, everything that comes after is chaotic. Every single communication that we have with the buyer or the selling agents, every single negotiation, every single offer, absolutely everything. When I was a selling agent, I could smell that from the first conversation, or when a buyer's agent walked through the door of an open home, whether that buyer's agent had confidence in their buyer. And the way that the buyer's agent was able to communicate that to me was through their communication. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. If you don't have confidence and conviction in your buyers, the agents can smell it. With their buyer briefs, sometimes the buyer can just have too many options. Too many choices, and then too many choices just leads to decisions never getting made. And when we're at that point, when we're having a negotiation with the selling agents, we need to make decisions. This is a brief that I took from somebody a little while ago. If I was a selling agent and I saw that brief come up in my email list, or if it came up in stories from buyers agents, you tell me, what do we think of that?
Very vague.
It seems like there's a lot there though, right, Emma?
Yeah.
How can it be vague if there's a lot there?
But there's a lot of detail with too many options.
Correct. If I was a selling agent and I came across that, I would think this buyer's agent hasn't been able to get their buyer focused on what they actually want. Correct? Yeah. It's very vague. So Broad Beach waters, Mermaid Beach, Miami. I wouldn't, if that buyer or buyer's agent walked through my open home, I'd say, you haven't got clarity on your buyer. I'm going to be doing your job for you. And not only that, we're going to be wasting our time. As buyer's agents, Emma, you know the area. If I had one of these buyers, circa 1.5 to 3 million, let's have a look at the higher end of the point here. Waterfront desired. Young family looking for a place to call home, so an emotional buyer. They're looking for a waterfront in Broad Beach waters up to 3 million. That's the North Star. That's their North Star. That's what they're looking, because I put a property in Miami at 1.5 on a dry block to them. What are they going to say? I'll hold off.
Yeah.
I'll wait for the North Star. So working through our buyer briefs with our buyers, less is better. The North Star brief. This is how I used to always position my buyers. We are aiming for the North Star. So take away Miami 1.5, take away the dry block, because in reality, we're going to hold off anyway. We are aiming for the North Star. I always used to say, don't try and educate before you have control. One of the things when I was a selling agent that I failed at, or it was a lesson learned, was I used to sit in front and do appraisals with I don't know how many sellers. And I would sit down with my principal and I say, I've done 15 appraisals this week and I've got 0 new listings. And he said, well, let's monitor it. Something has to change. Why am I losing all of these listings? Because I used to go into the listing presentations without a signed agreement. I didn't have control yet, and I would try and educate them. How many sellers come onto the market above what the market's actually, or their expectations are higher than what the market's actually prepared to pay? How many sellers? All of them. The same as when I was a selling agent and they used to say, hey, Colin, I used to sit down with them, these are the comparables. I think we're going to sort of sit around the 800 mark. Oh, well, Colin, we want 900. So if my confidence level is around 800 and they want 900, are they going to engage me to sell their property? No, they don't think I have confidence. And it's the same when we're a buyer's agent as well. We understand what the buyer's looking for, but before we actually get them to commit, education comes when we have control. So we can have the conversation with the buyer before they actually come onto our books or before they engage us. But if we're trying to educate, this isn't going to work for you. We need to compromise. We need to be close to the score, or we can't be close to the score because your budget doesn't allow it. We're trying to educate them without control, which means they probably don't even come on. Have this conversation in the strategy session when they come on. Suburbs, 3. I like to keep it very, very simple. Max budget, 1.3. No circa, no roundabout, no 1.5 to 3 million. Asset type, bedrooms, bathrooms, car spaces. 3 non-negotiables and 5 nice to haves. Leave it at that. As a selling agent, I know that buyer's agent has got they've done the work for me. They've got their buyer exactly where they need to be. I can pick up the phone if I've got something in between those, and I can be confident that I'm not going to be wasting my time giving that buyer's agent a call saying, hey, I've got the perfect property for you, because they've got their buyer absolutely crystal clear on what they're looking for. Communication. Our buyer briefs are our business card as well. Like when we talk about communicating with authority, yes, we communicate by our voices, but we also communicate by what we put out on social media and what we send. This is our business card. The previous one that I showed you, that tells me a lot about the buyer's agent without them even having to open their mouth. This tells me a lot about the buyer's agent as well. It tells me that they're ready to go and that they're focused. So this is how we communicate with authority. This is somebody that I want to work with. I always like to prep my clients for the market as well, like my buyers. We all know what's going to happen. We all know it's been happening in the last 2 or 3 years. It's likely that we're going to be in multiple offer situations. It's likely that we're going to be dealing with these agents, and these agents are known to play games and manipulate and things like that. So we actually cover what's happening in the market for them, because how many times have we been in those situations where we have an opportunity to buy a property and we've got about 24 to 48 hours, we've got a multiple offer situation and our clients go AWOL, as I just mentioned. We need to make sure that the client is ready and prepared for that. Because when we've got confidence in our buyer, that confidence exudes to the selling agents when we're having those conversations. So you can tell when to get out of the way. Communication with the agents, what's changing right now, multiple offer situations. So give them an idea of what's going to come. This is what I used to say, what I need from you, I need you to be available because we may need to act fast. I want to know that if I'm having that conversation with the selling agent and I'm pumping up your tires, hey, I've got this buyer, we've just missed out on 2 or 3 properties, I need to move on this within 24 to 48 hours, they've got their deposit ready and waiting in the bank. And then what happens when you bring the buyer through and they go, hey, well, you look like an idiot to the selling agent because you've pumped up the buyers. I need you to be available. If I'm going to have confidence in speaking to the selling agents on your behalf, I need you to be available. We may need to act fast. I used to have, are we all having strategy calls with our buyers each week? Like I know we're in communication on WhatsApp and things like that, but are we actually setting a meeting every single week with our buyers saying, hey, this is where we're at right now, this is where the market is right now. How many of us are having those conversations? Can I ask why?
Why we're not?
Yeah, why we're not? Sometimes you don't need to. Yeah? Like right now, like this, or 6 months ago, the selling agents didn't have to have a strategy meeting with any of their sellers. Why? Because they were selling in a week and a half. There was absolutely no need. But if our buyers are sitting on the market for a little while longer, we might need to maybe adjust their briefs. We might need to have those conversations because I had a lady once and she was buying on the Gold Coast and she was in Sydney. And everything that I put in front of her was a no, 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 no. Everything. Finally, a property came up and it ticked every single box. Every single box. I even knew the selling agent. He was one of my best mates. So he gave me all of the information. He said, Colin, I've got an offer there at 1.3. 1.31, it's yours. Or 1.305, whatever it is. Everything lined up. You know those ones where you know you're never going to have this opportunity again? Never. We had the conversation with the client and presented the opportunity, but my friend who was the selling agent said, we need to make a decision in 24 hours, I can't hold this off. Who's had those buyers who thinks the market's going to wait for them? No, doesn't happen. At the end of the day, we put the property in front of her, we had that conversation and she said, I'm not going to buy this property. And I said, look, can I have some feedback and ask why? And she said, yeah, because the door that leads out to the pool is the only door in this area. And it's the only area where my dogs are going to be able to go out and do a piss. And eventually over time, there's going to be a little yellow stain in this grass area. And I said, okay, so everything's lining up, but you're not going to buy this perfect property because where your dog can and can't piss. That wasn't the reason why she wasn't buying the property. There was something deeper. And when we're talking about emotional decisions, it's easy for us to sit back because we do it every single day. So I had to put myself in her shoes. And this is why I like to have a strategy call with my buyers every single week. I had to put myself in her shoes. Why isn't she buying this property? What do I not know? How many of us think we get the truth from our buyers of why they're buying property? Or how many of us have a feeling that there's still something somewhere that we don't know? We have those weekly calls get to that point. And it's the reason why our buyers are not on the market looking 8 months later. Because we're able to say, hey, we've explored these options, we've potentially got these options coming up, what isn't working for you? And it means we're not spending eight months with the client, we're spending 8 weeks with the client. So anyway, I had that conversation with her and I said, look, and I wasn't having these strategy calls every week with this lady, I wasn't. But I eventually got down to the point where she was a single lady, she was in Sydney and she was buying on the Gold Coast. She was spending 1.9 million and she was doing this herself. No easy feat. She was nervous. It's a big decision for somebody who's not able to bounce off a partner or go in or have somebody with you. It's a big decision to make in 24 hours. Agreed? Yeah. So I had to change up our strategy with the buyer. And we had to say, right, I can understand where you're coming from now and why we're not able to make decisions quickly. So I gave her a little bit of confidence to say, look, between the time the property comes on the market and between the time we need to transact, we are going to be in communication every single day. Agreed? She agreed. We are going to be putting all of our due diligence and everything in the market so that by the time we go and see the property on Saturday, we're able to make a decision. Agreed? So we got on the same track. So be available. Your A team, your broker, solicitor, conveyancer, builder, and a pest inspector. I don't know how many times one or all three of these have crashed a deal for me. We've all had one, a broker, a conveyancer, or a builder, and a pest inspector. They're very, very good at crashing deals. So having our A team for our buyers gives us the confidence when we're having those conversations with the selling agents. And have them ready before we need them. No hesitation. I need you to move quickly. If we've got a silence or if we've got a pause or a hesitation in between a negotiation, it's the difference between us getting your dream home and not. Let's move on to the selling agents. So that's the buyers taking care of. Let's move on to the selling agents. So when we start having these conversations with selling agents, who's experienced ghosting, not returning calls, stalling offers, not giving you information? Who in the room has experienced one or all of those? I think we can all say we've had all of them. We had this conversation this morning, and it was, what do selling agents think of buyers agents? What do you think they think of us generally? Good? Is it good or bad?
Mostly good.
Mostly good.
When they can understand how valuable we are to them, then they love us.
How do you communicate that value?
Okay, well, there's so many advantages for them to do off markets with me.
Yeah.
There's zero fuss. I'm not going to ask them 100 questions like someone off the street, first-time buyer. They'll spend minimal time talking to me throughout the settlement process because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And any little ripples, pest and building, we're just going to be fair and reasonable and not crash the deal.
Selling agents love buyers agents like that.
Yeah. And I've got a qualified pre-approved buyer ready to go.
I saw this 2 weeks ago on Facebook or last week. Thanks, Heather. I'm a sales agent and I've worked with many BAs. Some are absolutely brilliant at their job. Some are totally clueless. Do your homework, find one that is established with years of experience, not just done a crash course and found a couple of properties for their friends and family. Good luck on your investment. When we first have an interaction with an agent, Phil, we need to create that I know what I'm doing. I've got knowledge. Because when we first pick up the phone or have an interaction with the selling agent at an open home, where do you think they position us? Do they position us as totally clueless to begin with, or do they position us as absolutely brilliant? What is the first thought?
Totally clueless.
Because it's the easiest way to go. So we've got to work our way up. We don't start here and work our way down. We've got to work our way up. We've got to build that trust and respect, because the first interaction with those selling agents is they're totally clueless. If we come across as though we know our stuff, people listen. Who's heard of Matt Steinway? Yeah. Huge idol of mine. I was lucky enough to connect with him at ARIC. I think it was about 10 years ago, and we've stayed in contact ever since, but probably one of the most respected selling agents in the country. Everybody loves him. If we can come across as though we know our stuff, people listen. Sorry, Steve. So as I mentioned, I transacted on 100 plus properties in 2024, not because I worked harder, not because I worked longer, but because I knew the selling agent's processes better than they did. I was buying a property at auction in South Australia, and do we buy at auction? Yep. I was buying a property at auction, and I loved transacting before the auction. Transacting before the auction date. It was my thing. I had to do it. And I was buying a property for this client in South Australia, and the agent was a Ray White agent, so I was with Ray White for 12 years. And she said to me, we made our offer, as we normally do. Shit. Made our offer as we do, and she came back to me and she says, Colin, our sellers just really want to thank you for your offer. They just want to meet to lay that information to you. Unfortunately, the seller's situational circumstances are such that they do need to receive the auction. I'm sure you can read between the lines. If you're there on the day of auction, and you're at that level, I'm confident that we'll get this across the line. Who said that before? You've heard that before? It's funny because I was able to have that conversation with that psychology because I was with Ray White for 12 years. It's a very, very common. As the screen is up here in front of you now, I sat in 1,000 hours of auction training with Chief Auctioneers of Ray White Queensland, Chief Auctioneers of Ray White New South Wales. I absolutely loved the auction process. And a very script was up on the board that she told me that I sat with thousands of hours. The sellers would really like to thank you for your offer. Well, they're not going to tell you that they thought that it's shit, which is usually what happens when you present an offer to a seller. 9 times out of 10, the seller's going to go, their tire kickers tell them to fuck off. But then I'll go back to the buyer and say, the sellers are really appreciative of your offer. Soften that blow. Softening that blow. Their situation and circumstances are such that they need to proceed to auction. What does that tell us? It's not the offer. It's my sellers. I'm sure you can read between the lines. What does that say? If I ask you any questions, I feel stupid because I should read between the lines. If you're there at this level of auction, you've done a good job there. Said, look, with all due respect, and I've presented my offer the same way that I do for every single auction, and I already told her, I said, look, if we're not successful here before auction, we're not going to be there on the day. So she said, let's prepare you for auction. I laughed and I chuckled to myself because it was the exact lines that I used as a selling agent. And I said, look, are we open to have an open and honest conversation here? She said, yeah, sure. I said, I was a selling agent for 15 years with Ray White, and I sat in the same training rooms that you did with that exact script up on the board. I understand the process. I understand what you're doing. She said, where do we go from here? She said, Colin, leave it with me. 10 minutes later, she gave me a call. She said, your offer's been accepted and the auction's been cancelled. I saved myself and my clients 2 to 3 weeks because I understood the process probably better than she did. I like to use the analogy of being in sport, being in basketball. Like if we understand which way the players are going to move, when we watch videos with how other people play, like I've never been a professional footballer or a basketball player or anything like that. But if we watch, they all watch videos of, the teams that they're going to play. This guy always goes left. So if we know they're going left, we can block. We can understand the processes better than they do. So knowledge of the process and their tactics is just as important as how we communicate. Block, defend, and then attack. Agents want to work with people who understand the process and will make their life easier. That earns respect. What's more important? I see a lot of people, Colin, I create a lot of rapport and relationships with the selling agents when I get on the phone to them. Is that important? Yeah. What would we say is more important? Rapport and relationship, or respect and trust? Respect and trust. Most people think it's rapport and relationship. Hey, what did you do on the weekend? Our kids go to the same school. Did we go swimming on the weekend? Selling agents don't care. They don't care that your kids go to the same school. They want to know, can I trust you? And can I respect you? I had a buyer's agent ring me 2 years ago when I was a selling agent, and she said, a couple of us here operate in Queensland. So in Queensland for auction properties, we can't give price guides at all. So she rings me up and she asks me a little bit about the property, this buyer's agent. And she says, how much do you sellers want? I said, I'm not supposed to provide a price guide, REIQ. And she said, look, I'm a fellow professional. You can tell me. No respect and no trust. One conversation, 30 seconds. Straight away, I thought to myself, this isn't something, you haven't built any respect or any trust with me. You're not going to get the information because you feel like you're entitled to just jump 10 steps. I don't know who you are. Another way to say it is there's a buyer's agency on the Gold Coast, Emma will know them, the Sharma Group. They used to ring me up for my auction properties as well. And they would never, ever, ever ask me that question, what do your sellers want for this? Because they knew that I wasn't able to provide the information. They asked it in a different way, which was really interesting. They say, Colin, I know you're not able to disclose a price guide for this property. Straight away, they've got my respect because they understand my process. But I'm going to be positioning my buyers around what I saw 123 Smith Street sold for around the corner, which sold for 780,000. The trick here is to provide them with the comparable and to provide them with the number that's not going to get the selling agent to agree with you. We want them to disagree with us because if we built respect and trust, the selling agent will then turn around and say, hey, I think it's going to go for a little bit more than 780. We get the information without having to ask for the information because I built respect and trust. So, respect and trust is earned through experience, through knowledge, and through how we communicate. So this was me when I was a buyer's agent. I'd pick up the phone to a selling agent and say, hi, my name's Colin. I've been a selling agent for 15 years. I've sold over 1,600 properties, taken over 200 properties to auction with an 85% clearance rate. I've spent over 1,000 hours in negotiation training. I've worked alongside Justin Nicholson, the #1 auctioneer in Queensland. He used to call all of my auctions for me. I've shared an office with Michael Koloshi, the #3 agent in Queensland, writing over 11 million. That is how I would pick up the phone and speak to any selling agent. No, I'm only joking. But imagine if we could do that. Imagine if we could do that. Because what we're trying to do is, does that tell the other person on the other phone that this guy might know a little bit about what he's doing? Do you think it would earn respect? Do you think it would earn trust? Do you think I'd get a little bit more information? Do you think it would eliminate the selling agents from potentially playing those auction games because I could block? The more we can demonstrate that we understand the process and that we've got knowledge around the process, the less the selling agents play games against us. Who would agree with that? Yeah, the less they play games with us. It would be great to obviously start every single conversation like this, but at the end of the day, we start a conversation like this, the selling agent's just gonna go, he's a fucking idiot. So how do we do it? So how do we do it? Get someone else to say it. Brand and building and building your brand and reputation obviously creates that. The more we're out there, brand and building does that job for us without having to say it. Over time, your name does the talking for you, but that takes a lot of time. It took Michael Koloshi over 20 years. But when people are on the other side of the phone to Michael Koloshi, he commands respect. But what if we're not there yet? We only have a 5-minute conversation to build that respect and trust with the selling agent. To create that initial first contact, how do we do it in 5 minutes? It's what I'm going to hopefully show you today. Before you pick up the phone, how many of us, we come across a property that we want to buy for our clients? How many of us actually take 5 to 10 minutes to sit down and research the selling agent that we're about to have a conversation with? Yeah. That is going to give us an indication of how we approach the call. The same way as when two teams come together in sport, They watch videos on how the other team operate, because then they're able to play against their tactics. How long have they been in the industry for? How quickly do they sell their standard processes? Do they have a team? How many transactions per month? And watch their reels. Watch what they do on social media, because when we can do that, we know how to communicate with them. If you're selling agents on social media and they're always talking like, hey, we've got 123 Smith Street here for sale. I'm doing an open home on Saturday, we'd love to see you there. If I pick up the phone as a buyer's agent and say, hey, Stephen, great to meet you. I've got a buyer, I'm ready to go for you. Am I gonna build a rapport? No. We want to get an understanding of how the selling agents operate before we make that initial interaction. Would it be fair to say that my conversation with that agent is gonna be completely different if they've been in the industry for 20 years and they're transacting on 10 properties every single month, compared to an agent that's been in the industry for 6 months and transacting once every quarter? Do you think my conversation is going to be a little bit differently? It will. Because with the agent, respectfully, who's been in the industry for 6 months and he's only put 2 transactions together, I know that I can, I'm not going to use the word manipulate, influence. That's a better word. I know that I can influence him a little bit more. So my conversation is going to be very, very different. Prepare yourself when you're making that call. Your first impression on that call counts for so much. Clear your schedule, no distractions. Be in the office, not out in your car. One of the worst things, as a selling agent, a buyer pick up the phone to me, they're picking up the kids from school, the kids screaming in the back. Give me a call when you've got time.
What if your car is your office because you lock yourself in there to get away from the kids?
Oh, good question. Well, as long as you've got no distractions. As long as you've got no distractions around you, but be present. Because the selling agents will pick up on that. It's like, I want to give you, as a selling agent, my undivided attention. You've got to give me yours too. Match and mirror in the first 10 seconds. Anyone heard of Ving Jung, communication coach? I took on one of the things that he says, in the first 10 seconds, you can build rapport by match and mirroring, which means we're getting on the phone to that agent that's got 123 Smith Street and he's got it open on 11:30. The first 10 seconds, we're picking up the phone, we're saying, hey, Simon, I see you got 123 Smith Street. I just want to let you know I've got a buyer interested in the home for you. I'm matching him, because straight away, he knows that he's able to work with me. And I've built trust within the first 10 seconds. Know the outcome that we want to have before the call. I used to always have that. So if I was on the phone to an agent who had only been in the market for 3 months and he's only transacting on 1 property every quarter, I would have a very different outcome for that call. And the outcome for that call is I will want to, if the property comes on the market on Wednesday and there's an open home on Saturday, I'm stopping that property's open home on Saturday, because I know that I can influence this guy. Compared to if they've run a very, very strict process and a very, very quick, very, very strict strategy, and they've been in the industry for 20 years, I'm trying to work within what their process is. I'm trying to find the leverage within their process. So the outcome for that call is very, very different. Because if we try and stop a property from going to the open home on Saturday and try to influence an agent who has been running the same process successfully for 20 years, we're going to piss them off. They're going to be like, who the hell do you think you're talking to? This call sets the tone for everything. Everything is determined by your first interaction. The respect you receive, the information you receive, the games removed from the agent's processes, and the ongoing relationship. So that agent, that buyer's agent who rang me about the auction, and she said, you can give me the information. It's like going on a first date and asking them to go home with you afterwards. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get a slap in the face, and they're gonna remember that, right? You might get lucky 1 time out of 10. But the reality is, they're gonna remember that, and they're gonna want nothing to do with you after that. So the ongoing relationship, and a lot of us in this room, we're geographical. So the relationship, we're going to be coming across these agents again. A lot of people in the room geographical and operate with the same agents? Yeah. So that first impression creates the ongoing relationship. They are going to remember that first conversation that they've had with you 3 years later. So the call, how does it work? The introduction. Hi, my name's Colin. I'm from XYZ Buyers Agents. Get to the point. Be direct. Steve talked earlier about personality types, and it was really awesome. I have to be quick now. Most selling agents are Ds. Get to the point. Introduction. Why are we calling? Permission to speak. Position the buyer. Find out about the property. The seller's motivation. Process for offers of the offer situation. Tactical empathy and what buys it. So, hey, my name's Colin. I'm from XYZ Buyers Agency. I'm calling in relation to 123 Smith Street. Is now a bad time to talk. Position your buyer. This is why we have to have confidence in our product. Hey, I've got a buyer. We've just missed out on a couple of properties. We've got a deposit sitting waiting in our account. We've got the conveyancer ready to go. And mate, we're looking to move on this one as quickly as possible. That's when we find out about the property, general property information, find out about the tenants, how long it's been on the market for, things like that. The seller's motivation. We want to find out about the seller's motivation. Process for the offers situation. Hey, it looks like you're going to have a multiple offer situation on this one and you're going to have a lot of demand. How are you going to be playing that situation? How are you going to be handling that? Tactical empathy and what buys it. So tactical empathy, probably the most important part of this conversation because it connects us with the agents at a much deeper level because it shows them that we actually understand their process, which means, as you mentioned, Phil, knowledge. I've got knowledge and I understand how you're playing this process, which means I'm going to make the selling agent's job easier. They're going to want to work with me. How do we use tactical empathy? I was going to go out into role plays now, but we're running out of time. So,
Are you coming on with us?
Yeah.
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 I thought we could have question time at Parliament House.
Cool.
Mr. Speaker.
I'll be quick. Tactical empathy, what is it? The most important part of this process. Releases oxytocin. It's a really cool chemical in the brain that gets released when we can show that or demonstrate that we have connected with a person on a much deeper level. How many people have had friends in their life or had friends in their life with other friends and say, hey, why'd you get on with that person so well? And the other person has said, they just understand me. Who said that? It's like, why do you like that person so much? They get me. They just understand me. How do we create that? Shows the agent you understand the process and will make their life easier. It seems like your sellers want to sell this on Saturday. It sounds like your sellers are not ready to make a decision yet. It feels like this one will go to multiple offers. It seems like, it sounds like, it feels like. It means that we have empathy for their situation and we're tactically releasing that chemical called oxytocin, which means they automatically feel more connected to us. Because at the end of the day, when they put down that phone, after they've spoken to us about this property, they're either going to think one or two things. They're going to think he's a dick, or I really want to do a deal with this person. So we want them to put down the phone and say, really want to do a deal with this person. 3 things we need selling agents for. Off-market listings. Everyone, who in this room gets off-market listings? We all do. Second thing, beyond surface level, deeper information. That is what everyone else gets. This is the guide for the property. This is what our sellers want. That's the surface level information. And the third is we want insights into the other buyers at the offer table. We want to get as much information on the other buyers at the offer table so that we can create leverage and position our buyers just above to get the job done. Number one, most buyers agents get off-market listings. Number 2, beyond surface level and deeper information, few agents get here. Insights into the other buyers and offers, even fewer agents get here. Why? Because they haven't built enough trust and they haven't built enough respect with the agents. When your knowledge and communication earns their trust, you unlock all 3. How good would it be if we were to sprint to a selling agent, or we were in a multiple offer situation and the selling agent says, hey Colin, the other offers are a 1.3 and you need to position yourself a bit more high. And you can take what they're saying is, there's on coming up with a good offer. How many of us get that? There's a couple in the room. You've earned the trust and you've earned the respect, and you get that information. We can go deeper in the call, of course. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of other things we can do on that first initial call. We can, create urgency to try and move quickly before the open home or auction deadline. Hey, we need to move quickly on this. I need you to help me. Can we make a decision before Friday? Ask the agent for their help. I need to make a decision on this one before Friday. I'm ahead of myself. Qualify price using comparable properties and tactical questions. So we want to try and qualify price. How do we qualify price and value before the open home? There's no point in wasting our time or our buyer's time taking a $1.1 million buyer into a $1.4 million property. Underquoting is very much a thing at the moment. Who's I'm not going to say his name, but we all know that there's a very established New South Wales agent who's just been fined and
Teflon.
but underquoting is a thing, right? And a lot of buyers will waste their time going into properties that aren't a thing. So we want to try and qualify the property before we want to plan for it. How long have I got, mate? 2 minutes. Okay, let me run through it. I can share the slides and the presentation with you as well, guys.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
You could have set that a computer and then I was writing notes and taking photos.
I'll share them all with you. Okay, price is determined by two factors. I'll go on to it quickly. Price is determined by two factors. I had a situation. I brought on a new buyer. I brought a new guy to our program last week. Really nice, lovely guy. And I said, look, why did you want to become a buyer's agent? And he said, well, because 2 years ago I bought a property through a buyer's agent, and I paid $480,000 for it. I said, great. Like, what was unhappy about that? He said, well, when I settled on the property, the selling agent gave me a call and he said, Colin. The selling agent gave me a call and said, congratulations, we've settled on the property. Can I just let you know, this is what the selling agent said to one of the guys that's just signed on, his name's Luke. He said, can I just let you know that the last offer before yours of 480 was at 430? Can I use this board? $430, $480, $50,000 difference. So when we're trying to determine prices, but determined by two factors, I put it up on my social media. I said, what's going on here? Where's the gap? Most people commented on my social media and they said, the buyer's agent didn't do their due diligence. They didn't check RP data, recent sales comparable, CMA and due diligence, all things. This provides us with the value or gives us an indication of where the property should sit in the market. Not a single person mentioned the situation of the property. What's most important then? Seller's motivation, days on market, demand, competition, and previous interest in offers. Does that determine price as well? Yes. Yeah. Which is most important?
Situation.
Yeah, okay. Situation. So let me say, for example, like the last 2 years, the properties are obviously been selling for more than what
On the juice.
on the Gold Coast, for more than what perceived market value is. So we don't want to, so the selling agent says to us there, I've had demand and competition and previous offers at 500. And we're ready to sell. In those situations, I would say data is more important because we don't want if we see 480,000, we don't want to be paying 500,000. But in this situation, the situation was the most important, correct? The situation was most important. One is time driven. One is skilled driven. Would we agree with that? To go onto RP data, to go onto realestate.com, it just takes our time. To get information about the seller's motivation, days on market, demand, competition, and previous interest, would you say that takes a little bit more skill to get that information? So to get the information of 430 out of the selling agent. So there are two prices. There's the data-driven price and there's the situation-driven price. In the last 2 years, I like to call it data-driven price, and then there's the competitive price, because the competitive price is what's been pushing them up above market value.
Did you want to do this? We could do it on the trip.
Yeah, have we got to go?
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, guys.
So yeah, well, let's carry that on. So we can do it on the trip.
I'll share the slides with everyone. I had like 4 more to go anyway, so we won't.
Do you reckon that we can be on the bus, and it leaves in 5 minutes.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
yeah.